even as 3-year-olds, I had them do simple tasks to help me cook, things that were safe and things that I was supervising right there. So when the children had more investment in preparing the meal, they were more likely to eat it and try new foods.
Kelly, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Kelly is one of my friends, and she's my colleague from the Positive Discipline Association. Kelly, I'll let you talk about your journey through positive discipline and a bit about yourself.
All right. I became a mom about 30 years ago. My oldest child is 30. My younger child is 27. And he was about 18 months old when my mother-in-law came to visit us from out of town, and she saw I was trying to use some methods other than traditional parenting methods to face challenges that I was having with my son, I said he was 18 months at the time. And she very gently said, "Oh, you might be interested in this book called Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson." And when I said my mother-in-law suggested something, some people might think it was something very negative that happened, but she just did it so gracefully and just one sentence. And I went to the library, got the book, and I read it and thought, and the book was Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson. I thought, why didn't anyone ever tell me this before? I've never heard of these ideas, and they're just lovely and so helpful. And it was a new way of thinking. So I eventually read the book 3 times cover to cover so that I could really absorb these new ideas that I was learning about. And then that was way back when there was something called America Online, and there was a section of that called Moms Online. I joined that and started, I found this positive discipline discussion group, started discussing positive discipline with other moms. Jane Nelson dropped in there, and she encouraged me to eventually become a positive discipline educator. And I wanted to go to a positive discipline class, but there were no classes in my area. So that's what I eventually did. I became a positive discipline educator and started teaching parent workshops myself. And that was, a long time ago. It was in 1999 that I attended Teaching Parenting the Positive Discipline Way, the workshop that started me teaching parents.
Wow. So what you just shared, especially about your mother-in-law, how often do we think when something that's shared with us through our mother-in-law, right away our brain goes to one way or the other, right? And it's so encouraging that when we have the best interests and some of these little tips brings us to a direction that can be so encouraging, empowering. So when you were thinking about positive discipline at that time, what were the traditional methods and how is positive discipline different? Or what is it that you liked about positive discipline?
Well, I have this memory of my dad chasing me around the room in the house when I was at least 4 or younger, and he was trying to spank me. And I remember thinking, this is crazy. Surely there's another way. And I was raised in a lovely family, and actually my mom put a stop to the spanking soon after that. So I did not receive many spankings. But even when I was little, I said, I want to find a different way. I remember that moment distinctly. And so when I had a son, I thought, well, I don't think spanking makes sense to me. So what else is there? And positive discipline offered so many other ways to teach my son. So one thing I learned in the book was discipline it comes from the Latin word disciplis, which means to teach. And I had this traditional view of discipline that it meant punishment to stop behaviors. So I learned this whole new way of thinking and this whole new way of teaching my child what to do instead of focusing on what he shouldn't do, focus on teaching him some new skills or setting limits in a way that is respectful and keeps his dignity intact.
Absolutely. It's quite interesting that even as a 3-year-old, you were so creative. You were thinking outside of the box and problems like, what are some other ways that this could be done? I don't want to be spanked. And I know traditionally speaking, either spanking or threats, right? You better do it now, or I am going to take something away from you. It's how I was raised as well. It's like, if you don't do this, then, you're not going to get this. Or, and my parents, as your parents, were just amazing folks, wanted to do really well and just wanted to raise us with some life skills and qualities that we can become healthy adults with. So, why is creativity still important? And especially in early childhood, why is it so important? And how does positive discipline play a role in fostering creativity for children?
Oh, one of my favorite things besides positive discipline is teaching parents about healthy child development and specifically social and emotional development. So many of the people out there may know about Erickson's stages. So if you don't, go look that up. If you do, you'll know what I'm talking about. But as children are developing, they're first totally dependent on us, but the next stage of development is having a sense of autonomy and knowing that you're your own person, this little person, even who's 2 years old, and that you have your own ideas that may be very different from another person's ideas. And part of creativity, or part of problem solving, is creativity, because there is never just one way to solve a problem. And what I love about positive discipline is it gives both parents new ways to solve problems, and it actually says to parents, hey, what if you involve the child in solving this problem? And you say to even a 4-year-old, wow, there's a spill on the floor. What can we do about it? And so positive discipline, that one big aspect of positive discipline is about problem solving and focusing on solutions, brings out a lot of good creativity that is about solving real life problems when they happen. So I love the other part of creativity that is about art and music and dance as well, so that children learn to express themselves in different ways, get to know themselves, their feelings, and how to express that. So I love all that side. But just talking about positive discipline, it's just such a great tool, or there are great tools to have children problem solve and think of outside of the box ways, because there are so many ways to solve every problem. But often as parents, we go to the traditional way, or just the first thought that we think of. And when I'm teaching parenting classes, I encourage parents to, okay, let's get 8 good ideas up here. And those are usually real ideas that most everybody in the group can think about. And now let's keep going. Can we get 15 ideas? Can we get 20 ideas? And so I love to bring that out with parents. And then hopefully they will also bring that out with their children.
Yes. And it sounds like communication too. You're really good at drawing forth a lot of different ideas, because there are many ideas that we have that we don't go to. Well, we go to the ones that our parents have modeled for us, or our community members have modeled for us, or what we watched on social media or elsewhere. And then sometimes we have that disconnect from what we really, if we took time to consider their other encouraging ideas that you're talking about. So what are some of the example of activities that you did with your son and your daughter that were that brought the sense of empowerment?
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you mean activities that I planned for them, or just in the moment how we solved problems?
Yeah, just some examples, because I think when we're talking about traditional and positive discipline, it can be really confusing. So just a little bit of a concrete examples of what creative activities look like, and how do you solve problems if, for example, my child will not wear certain clothes or won't eat certain food. So how do we bring creativity in this to solve the problems, versus saying, you better eat or you're going to bed hungry, or you better put this clothes on, or, we're going to be late, and we get to the punishments and threats.
Okay. So I remember when my daughter was either 2 or 3, it snowed outside at our house. I live in South Carolina, so it does not snow very often, but it snowed. And I encouraged the children, let's go out and investigate this snow. And my daughter, I said, get your shoes on, get some coats on. So she went to get, she had no socks or shoes on, and she went and got some sandals that were the easiest ones to put on. So she has sandals on with her toes open, and we're going out to play in the snow. And my go-to tool, just starting it, I don't always, sometimes I think and I don't act. I think and I go, okay, what else can I think of next? Was to say, well, your feet are going to be cold. You'll need warmer shoes. You'll need socks and your warmest shoes on. But I said, oh, those are the shoes you want to wear. Okay. And we were just going out in the front yard. So I thought, if she gets cold, she can come back in and get some different shoes on. Why don't I let her learn from this experience? And I can't remember exactly if I said any questions to her, but we went outside, and I can't even remember if she ever changed shoes. I think she did, but that was an example of she's not going to freeze to death. She could just walk back in the house and get some warm clothes on. And I decided I didn't even have to ask her, are your feet cold? Are your feet cold yet? Like that would have maybe set up a power struggle, or not let her learn from just the natural consequences of wearing sandals in the snow. I might have set up something where she had something else to prove instead, just to let her learn from that. And then my second example is about eating food. So dinner time never was that big of a struggle at our house. Number one, each kid had to help me cook dinner, just a portion of the dinner, once a week. Well, we had a rotating wheel, so sometimes it was twice a week. But even as 3-year-olds, I had them do simple tasks to help me cook, things that were safe and things that I was supervising right there. So when the children had more investment in preparing the meal, they were more likely to eat it and try new foods. And secondly, I had a guideline that was, if you don't want to eat what we're eating here at our meal, you can make yourself a sandwich. We always had peanut butter and things to go on bread to make a sandwich, or you can open a can of Campbell's soup or some kind of soup. And those are the two things. So I think they were probably maybe 6 or 7 or 8 when I said you can make soup on the stove. But I had those two things, and I think there was only once or twice that they chose to do that. But that there was no forcing. And I always tried to make sure that there were two things on the table that I knew they had eaten before and would eat. I mean, I didn't worry about that too much, but in general, that was in the back of my mind.
If you like the content of this video, please don't forget to follow. And also, if you want more information, visit the website, yogipatel.com.